Take a photo real quick.
Really happy guys up here. This is, awesome news for the Trailblazers organization, for the city of Portland, for the Pacific Northwest. It's a happy day.
And open for me to come back, even with me being hurt. And, it means a lot to me to not only play for this organization again.
In the most shocking turn of events in recent NBA history, Damian Lillard is officially back in a Portland Trailblazers uniform. We're talking about a 9-time All-Star who demanded a trade just 2 years ago, got shipped to Milwaukee with championship aspirations, and now finds himself right back where it all started. This isn't just another free agency signing. This is something that has literally never happened before in the modern NBA. A superstar getting traded away, having another team pay over $100 million to get rid of him, and then returning to his original franchise with that same team essentially footing the bill. The circumstances that led to this moment are absolutely wild, and the implications for both Lillard's legacy and Portland's future are staggering. To understand how we got here, we need to go back to April 2025. Damian Lillard was finally healthy after missing significant time, ready to make his playoff push with the Milwaukee Bucks. This was supposed to be the year everything clicked. Giannis and Dame leading a championship charge. Then, disaster struck in the most cruel way possible. Game 4, against the Indiana Pacers, Lillard plants his left foot wrong, going up for what seemed like a routine play. The sound was audible throughout the arena. That sickening pop that every basketball fan dreads hearing. His Achilles tendon had completely ruptured. In an instant, not only was Milwaukee's championship dream over, but Lillard's entire career trajectory had been altered forever. The Bucks would go on to lose that series in 5 games, and suddenly, everything changed. This wasn't just about missing a few weeks or even a few months. Achilles injuries for players over 30 are career-altering events that often signal the beginning of the end. What happened next shocked the entire basketball world. Instead of standing by their superstar during his recovery, the Milwaukee Bucks made one of the coldest front office decisions in recent memory. They waived Damian Lillard and stretched his remaining contract. We're talking about over $113 million that they decided to spread out over multiple years rather than wait for him to recover. Think about how brutal that is. This is a player who completely uprooted his life, left the only franchise he'd ever known, and committed to their championship vision. But the moment he couldn't contribute immediately, they cut him loose. Reports started surfacing about tension between Lillard and the organization regarding his rehabilitation process. Apparently, there were disagreements about his recovery timeline and approach to getting back on the court. The Bucks wanted to move fast, to compete while Giannis is still in his prime. And an injured 35-year-old point guard with a massive contract didn't fit their plans anymore. So they used that stretched money to sign Miles Turner instead, essentially trading an injured superstar for cap flexibility. But here's what most people don't fully understand about Damian Lillard's situation in Milwaukee. It was never really just about basketball. From the moment he got traded to Wisconsin, Dame struggled with being away from his family and community in Portland. This is a guy who built his entire identity around being loyal to one city, being the face of a franchise that had never won a championship. His kids were settled in Portland. His life was there. His community connections ran deep. During his time with the Bucks, Lillard spoke openly about how difficult the transition was, not just professionally, but personally. He's always been more than just a player to Portland. He's been a community leader, someone who represented the city's blue-collar identity. Being in Milwaukee, even with championship aspirations, never felt completely right. When he said at his reintroduction press conference that it never felt right not being home, you could hear the genuine emotion in his voice. This wasn't just a basketball decision. This was about a man trying to find his way back to where he truly belongs. Let's break down just how masterfully Portland played this entire situation. 2 years ago, when Dame demanded that trade, the Blazers could have panicked and made a desperate win-now move. Instead, they took the patient approach that has now paid off in the most spectacular way possible. They got significant assets in return for Lillard, players like DeAndre Ayton, who became key contributors. Plus, they kept the draft pick that became Scoot Henderson, while Dame was in Milwaukee. Portland was quietly building something special. They developed young talents like Shaedon Sharpe and Anthony Simons, added veteran leadership with players like Jerami Grant, and built a defensive identity that nobody saw coming. By the end of last season, this was a team that was showing real signs of being competitive in the brutal Western Conference. And now they get to add Damian Lillard back into that mix on a team-friendly deal. Just $42 million over 3 years, compared to the massive contract Milwaukee was stuck with. They essentially got paid to develop their young core, and now they're getting their franchise legend back at a discount. The NBA has specific rules designed to prevent exactly this type of scenario from occurring. Teams that trade away a player have to wait a certain period before they can reacquire that player, specifically to prevent organizations from making under-the-table agreements. You can't just trade someone away to get assets and then bring them back immediately. That would completely undermine the integrity of the trade system. The only reason this was even possible is because Lillard didn't return to Portland through a trade. He became a free agent when Milwaukee waived him, which created a loophole in the system. The closest comparison we have is LeBron James leaving Cleveland for Miami in 2010 and then returning 4 years later. But even that situation was different because LeBron left as a free agent originally and returned as a free agent. This Lillard situation involved him getting traded away against his preferred destination, having his contract paid off by another team, and then returning to his original franchise. It's a sequence of events that required perfect timing and circumstances that are almost impossible to replicate. Here's the reality that nobody wants to talk about. Damian Lillard is not the same player who left Portland 2 years ago. He's now 35 years old and coming off a devastating Achilles injury that typically takes 12 to 18 months for full recovery, if players ever fully recover at all. We've seen how these injuries have affected other stars like Kevin Durant, Kobe Bryant, and Rudy Gay. Some players come back and find ways to adapt their game. Others are never quite the same explosive athlete they once were. Dame's entire identity as a player has been built around his incredible range and ability to create separation with his quickness. If that explosiveness is diminished, he'll have to completely reinvent how he approaches the game. The pressure on him to prove that this return makes basketball sense and not just emotional sense is enormous. Portland fans are expecting their franchise legend to help lead them back to championship contention. But the Western Conference is more loaded than ever, with young, athletic teams like Oklahoma City and Houston rising up. The question everyone in Portland is asking is whether this core can actually compete for anything meaningful. Next season, Lillard will be rehabbing and likely won't play significant minutes until 2026 at the earliest. By then, he'll be 36 years old in a conference that features prime-age superstars like Luka Doncic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Anthony Edwards. The Blazers are banking on their young players taking massive developmental leaps. Scoot Henderson has shown flashes but is still inconsistent. Shaedon Sharpe has injury concerns that have limited his availability. Anthony Simons is talented but has never proven he can be a consistent second option on a championship team. Portland's front office believes they can build something special around this mix of youth and veteran leadership. but the timeline is incredibly tight. They essentially have a 2-year window where Lillard might still be effective. Their young players are developing, and their financial flexibility allows them to add more pieces. After that, Dame will be approaching 40 and likely declining rapidly. The pressure to maximize this opportunity is immense, and failure would mean wasting what could be the final chapter of one of the most loyal superstars in NBA history. This story represents something bigger than just basketball transactions. It's about loyalty, family, and the idea that sometimes the best decision isn't always the most logical one. Damian Lillard chose to come home, even knowing the challenges ahead. Portland chose to welcome back their prodigal son, even with questions about his future production. Whether this fairy tale ending actually results in championship success remains to be seen. But the journey back home has already created one of the most compelling storylines in recent NBA memory.